Hello everybody, welcome back to Throttle Grotto. There is a strange glow coming from the rabbit side of the shop. What's going on? Find out next on this episode of Throttle Grotto. Hey everybody and welcome back. So what was that weird, strange glow in the corner of the shop? I'm going to tell you in a minute. But first, I want to remind you guys that the Rescarfo or Recaro scarf giveaway is coming up in a couple of weeks. And I don't want you guys to miss out on it. And I want you to see this scarf. My hands are clean right now. So this is a pretty cool piece of swag here that I picked up at SEMA. Thanks to the guys at Recaro for giving out some cool stuff at the show. I'm not really a scarf person, but this could be a cool thing to hang in your garage, or if you go to soccer games or whatever. You know, a lot of people wear scarves at soccer games. So subscribe and comment. That's all you have to do to be entered to win. And I'm going to pick someone at random just after the first of the year, and I will announce the winner then, and I will send them the prize pack. So a scarf and a set of stickers. So yeah, please. I want to give it away to someone. I've already got a couple people that are eligible. So let's get some more people. Let's make this at least a double-digit random number drawing. How's that? Okay, back to the rabbit. So I've been playing around with the junkyard harness for a couple of days. Had some things that really frustrated me. So my friend Chris sold me his extra copy of his Cabriolet Scirocco 16V service manual, which has come in extremely handy. I've been able to play around with a whole bunch of stuff in the wiring harness and figure stuff out. One of the things that was really throwing me for a loop, I was using a tool called a power probe, and if you don't know what a power probe is, I'll show you. I'll just grab it here real quick. So this is a power probe. It has battery and negative, so you have positive and negative hookups for your battery, and then powers up. It's got a couple of LEDs for lighting up your work. It's got a real sharp probe so you can actually go into wires if you want. And it'll have this LCD display which shows the voltage, and there's a green icon if it's a ground and a red icon if it's positive. And it'll actually show you the voltage in the window. So the neat thing about this tool is you can actually ground things out by hitting the rocker switch to negative, or you can power things up by hitting the rocker switch to positive. So, like for instance, if you want to test a fan motor, instead of getting a power wire and running it over there and then taking the terminal, you can just find the terminal, hit power, and it'll power up the circuit that you're working on. So it also has a little circuit breaker that pops out on the side, and so if you make a mistake, generally it will correct it before you get any problems. So the other tool that a lot of people use for testing circuits is a 12-volt test light, and I have one of those as well. The difference that I ran into was installing the harness and just kind of laying it out in the car. I still haven't taped it, but installing it into the car and testing wiring with the power probe, I was getting really, really weird readings that were confusing me. The most notably being the high and low beams on the headlights, and the bulb sockets, like the positive terminals on the bulb sockets, were showing up as ground, and it really confused me, because that indicated to me that the fuse, like there was something wrong with the harness, like a chafed wire or something in the harness that was shorting everything to ground. So I pulled the harness out of the car, cut the wire sheathing back, checked everything. I didn't see any damage to any of the wires. and it really puzzled me for like 2 or 3 days. And like we went and saw a movie the other night, and like on the way to the movie, I'm like, oh, wiring, and then I went through the movie, and then as soon as I got out of the movie, I got back in the car, and I'm like, oh, wiring. So I took the power probe and tested it on the GTI, which is a stock car, hasn't been tampered with at all, and I got the same readings. So one thing, there's a learning curve in using that tool versus a test light. If I had to use the test light, because I hadn't wired up the headlight switch yet, some of the power goes through the headlight switch. So if you get a power probe, they're a really cool tool. I bought mine several years ago, and every once in a while I pull it out and use it. They're super handy, but there's a learning curve with it. So bottom line, check this out. The wiring's fine. I was able to pull all the plugs out of the headlight switch. And I don't know if you'd be able to... Let me turn this light on here. So everything is just kind of roughed in here right now. I still got a lot of wiring to do for the HVAC stuff. But I have hazards that are working. And I have my headlight switch. So this is the old style headlight switch. That one that is right for this car. And check it out, I've got my side markers, got hazards, LED license plate lights I put in the factory housings, put LEDs in the sides here, got side markers up front, headlights are working, so, turn signals in the front are wired up. I've got to get different turn signal buckets, but bottom line is the wiring is good. I've got a few more things to take care of with the lighting harnesses for the front and the rear, but right now the electrical wiring is coming together as I hoped it would. So not without a few little frustrations, but this is a huge relief that at least this portion of the harness works. And I'm going to go through and spend the rest of the evening kind of buttoning up some of the connections that I've just spliced together by hand, just to get, make sure that everything works before I do the final connections. Just twist it together, put a little tape on it just to make sure that everything's good. So I'm going to fix those connections tonight. And then tomorrow afternoon, I'll work on the GTI a little bit tomorrow and get you guys caught up on what's going on with that. I'm still waiting on some parts for the fuel system, but I can show you guys. I got parts all over the place right now. I've got a Mark III wiper motor that I've had sitting around a while. I'm going to use this in the Rabbit. I've got my 10-inch cabriolet knuckles with new wheel bearings that are ready to go in. And this is the so the CIS injectors were completely plugged. I was able to get just a little bit of dribble through them with some carb cleaner. So my father-in-law had this stuff around, and I'll show you guys later when I pull the injectors out. But it's actually it's like a parts washer. It's got a little basket in there you pull out of the can. I don't know how old this stuff is, but it's old, which means it's going to work really good on those CIS injectors. So if this stuff doesn't clean them up to the point where they'll spray fuel, I'll probably have to send them out to have the CIS injectors for the 83 GTI. I'll have to have those professionally cleaned. So I'm going to let them set in that stuff for a few more days. It'll give it about a week to soak in this old carburetor and parts cleaner. So, but I will show you guys when I pull those out of there, and I'll show you guys. Hopefully, we'll get a good spray pattern on them. So that's all for tonight. I'm just going to do some work here on my own, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Good morning, everyone. I decided to skip a day of filming on the stuff I was doing on the 75 Rabbit. Basically just pulling wires out of the harness, nothing really interesting. I've got a nice box of wires that I've pulled out of there now from like the AC wiring and airbag wiring, because it was a 90 Cabriolet, so it had airbags in it, so I pulled all that stuff out. And now I decided that I needed to get the fuel tank swapped in the 83 GTI because it actually showed up. I didn't expect it for another couple days. So that's what I'm doing now. I'll kind of show you guys what's going on underneath here. I've already pulled out the fuel pump. I actually got the front nuts for the fuel tank straps to come loose. I still need to lower the beam, but took the accumulator down. I took off the forward line for the accumulator. It's this one over here, and it's a rubber line, so I'm going to go have see if I can have a new one made. They can reuse these ends, but I'm going to see if I can get a new rubber piece put into the center of that. And I need to take this hose off and get it replaced because it's the original fuel filler line. So I've already cut the hose. Looks like somebody replaced it at one point, but I'm not going to take any chances with it. So, and then I need to pull the accumulator down, and I need to soak that in some carb cleaner for a couple of days, just to clean out any of the old fuel. So that's what I'm up to right now, is just working on Anthony's 83 GTI, trying to get the fuel system. I needed to work on this back part of the fuel system so that I can put clean gas in it. You can see here where you can see obviously the fuel tank had been leaking for some time. It ate all the undercoating off of it, so that's why we're replacing it. And it's probably rusty inside. So that's what I'm up to right now. I'm going to work on getting the rest of these fuel system parts out of here, and then I'm going to go get a hose made and hopefully get this fuel system, or the fuel tank, back in and all that stuff today. Maybe even get a little bit of gas in it and see if I can get the engine to fire. Alright, so now that we've got the axle lowered down out of the way, I can undo the straps that hold the fuel tank in, and the fuel tank should drop right out. And then we'll go get hoses and stuff. Now we'll see if we can wiggle this gas tank out of here. Alright, so I figured out a crafty solution based on some stuff that I've already forgot about. I'm going to replace both these over axle lines, which I figured I would do for the brake lines, sorry. I figured I would do since I had to take the axle down anyway, and it's the easiest time to do it. So I just cut that, dropped the bolt off the rear shock, and now I've got all kinds of room to lower this axle down so I can just slide the fuel tank out the side. And it's out. So you can look up in here now. Everything looks pretty good and clean up in here. So looks like we'll make a parts run, and then we will come back and put things back together. We are back from parts gathering. So I took the original fuel line down to a place here locally that does this kind of stuff, and they took the old ends off and put a new rubber line inside the sheath. So now we've got a fuel line that will bolt right back up to the accumulator like it's supposed to. And got a new piece of fuel line that goes from the filler neck on the tank, from the inlet on the tank to the filler neck, and a piece of fuel line to replace the little one that curls up around the top of the tank. So we've got all our stuff that we need to put this tank back in. We've got the new brake lines that go over the axle. So let's just get this back together so I can get it on the ground. But first, check out that mad camber. It's because there's basically only one bolt holding this axle in right now, and I've got it dropped way down so that it can, so the fuel tank can slide back in. So might even get better when I. Oh yeah, that's not what I wanted to do there though. It's probably. Oh yeah. Stance kids are ready for that. I'm just kidding, we'd never do that here. Alright, the fuel tank is in. That's probably a way easier of a job to do with two people. But it's in, fits, so I'm just going to keep working and keep on buttoning stuff up here. Hey everybody, so it is a lot later in the day than I anticipated. After running to the auto parts store a few times, I had some setbacks today. The driver's side brake line wouldn't come loose, so I had to cut the fitting so that I could replace the soft hose, and now I've got to come up with hard line to go from the soft line back to the drum. So I think I have one. I just need to start digging around in the parts buckets and see what I have. The fuel supply line from the filler neck to the back of the tank, the replacement tank has a larger diameter nozzle, so that is absolutely not working right now. I got a wire reinforced hose because that's all they had at the place that sells fuel hose, and it just would not go on. There's absolutely no way I could make that work. So a few other things that haven't. I really wanted to end today's episode with the fuel system in the back of the car being wrapped up and complete and ready to go, so that I can start working on the front of the car and get fuel in here and see if this thing will run. But no such luck. So I got to do some more parts chasing, and that's just how it goes sometimes working on these things. It's super frustrating, you know, but you know, you're dealing with old junk, and sometimes junk doesn't want to cooperate. So hopefully I've had the little heater on in here most of the day, so hopefully you guys can hear over that. But that's it. I wanted to have more done on the 75. I wanted to have more done on the 83, because I want to get Anthony his car back, and I've got other people that want me to work on their cars too. So I can't work on those until this is done. So there you have it. So that'll be the end of today's episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and comment below for a chance to win the Recaro scarf and Throttle Grotto stickers. Next week episode around that time should be the when I do the random drawing. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Get out there and work on something.